Play me, old King Cole, that I may join with you. Hi, fans of high-quality entertainment. This is another, just a fun, silly video. Don't take it too seriously. We're just talking about music. It's not politics. You are, once again, for whatever reason, thrown in jail for a year. Congratulations. You've been thrown in jail quite a few times, some of you. There is a large poster in the jail cell of keyboardist Rick Wakeman with his long, flowing blonde hair and his cape and some Chinese food. Some of you will get that joke. And you can listen to music, but you only have two choices. It is either the complete discography of Yes or the complete discography of Genesis. And I'll give you my answer, but I'm really looking forward to your comments below. And for me, I think most people would say Pink Floyd is the greatest progressive rock band of all time. I can't argue with that. But personally, I think I love Genesis and Yes, maybe possibly just a tad more. But it doesn't really matter, right? Like, you can love all bands equally. But this, like I said, this is just for fun. And so the first thing I thought of was comparing the musicians before I make my choice. Now on guitar, now these are the main players. Of course, they've had lots of band members through the years, but this is the main core of the band. So on guitar for Genesis is Steve Hackett for the most part, plus of course Mike Rutherford later on. And for Yes, it's been mainly Steve Howe. Between those two, I mean, Steve Hackett is amazing guitarist. But I'd have to pick Steve Howe as being the most amazingest, is that a word? Of the two. And Mike Rutherford's great too. So on bass, the main players are Mike Rutherford for Genesis and Chris Squire for Yes. Once again, I'm going to have to go with Yes for the incredible bass playing of Chris Squire, along with John Entwistle and Paul McCartney, almost using the bass guitar as the main instrument, like a lead guitar. But Mike Rutherford, he's good too. He's very, very, very good. Don't get me wrong. Now, on drums, of course there was Bill Bruford earlier in the career and other drummers, but for Yes, it's mainly been Andy White. And for Genesis, it's been mainly Phil Collins, especially in the earlier years. And then, of course, later on they got like Chester Thompson, I believe, that used to play with Frank Zappa and whoever else. But between Phil Collins and Andy White, I gotta go with Phil Collins. It's funny, but earlier when I was a fan of Genesis in the 70s and 80s and all that, I never really noticed Phil Collins' drum playing. I was more focused, I guess, on Peter Gabriel's vocals and just the music overall. But in the last few months, I've been playing a lot of Genesis, and he is a phenomenal, that's a hard word to say, phenomenal, so you got to go with it like this, phenomenal drummer. And you know, when the 80s came around and he started doing the solo albums, a lot of people got kind of sick and fed up with him, and as did I. But looking back on his career, he is great. So far it's 2-1 for yes. Now on keyboards, Tony Banks for Genesis, and for the most part it's been Rick Wakeman for yes. Of course he's gone in and out of the group 1,800 times. And this might surprise some of you, but I'm going to go with Tony Banks. When I listen to Genesis music, it's sort of similar to Phil Collins. His keyboard work has really impressed me more than ever the last few months. I just find it more interesting overall. Not that Rick Wakeman's bad, he's very good too. But I'm going to go with Tony Banks. So it's 2-2 now. So now we got to go with, now this one is where it's kind of split, because with Genesis, of course, there were two main singers. The first part of their career was Peter Gabriel, and the second part it was Phil Collins, for the most part. And for yes, it's been, until of course the last few years, it's been John Anderson. John Anderson is one of my all-time favorite singers. But I gotta go with Peter Gabriel and Phil Collins. Phil Collins is a damn good singer too. And I love the early albums when Phil Collins took over from vocals. And then they went a little too commercial for my liking, but what the hey. So I'm going to have to go with yes. I'm going to have to go with Genesis. I meant that as yes. So yes, I'm going to have to go with Genesis. That's what I was trying to say. And Peter Gabriel, I think, would be in my top 5 singers of all time. So now it goes to the albums. This all leads up to the albums. So let's see. I don't love everything either band has done, but I'll tell you the albums I love. Genesis' first album, From Genesis to Revelation. It was good. I give it a 7 out of 10. Trespass was even better, and I love especially Looking for Someone and The Knife. So I'd give that an 8 out of 10. Nursery Crime, now we're getting good. I'll give that a 9 out of 10. Foxtrot, it's a 10 out of 10. Selling England by the Pound, I could never get into it in the past, but I mentioned in a recent video how much I love it now. So I'm going to give that a 9 out of 10. The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. I absolutely love the first side of the album and Carpet Crawlers and maybe 1 or 2 other songs, but I haven't gotten into the rest of the album. It just kind of bores me for whatever reason. But still, it's a very strong 8 for me. A Trick of the Tail, the first one with Phil Collins, it's great, an 8 out of 10. Wind and Weathering, I would need to listen to it again and reevaluate it. So I'll give it a 7 out of 10. And then there were 3. I loved it. I'll give it an 8 out of 10. Duke. Kind of changing at this point, but still, I bought the Genesis albums when it came out and I really loved it. So I'll give it an 8 out of 10. Abacab. Now this one has one of my all-time favorite songs, not just by Genesis, but just one of my all-time favorite songs, Keep It Dark. So I'll give it a strong 8 out of 10. And the last album of theirs I had any interest in was Genesis with Mama, but there's some pop songs on that I didn't care for. And then so I'd give that a 7 out of 10. And then Invisible Touch, We Can't Dance, and Calling All Stations I never really listened to. And with Yes, their debut album Yes, I'd give that a 10 out of 10. Time and a Word, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. The Yes album, I'll give a 10 out of 10. Close to the Edge, I'll give a 10 out of 10. Tales from Topographic Oceans, I'm still trying to get into it. I love side 1. Side 2 I'm starting to love. Side 3, still need to listen to side 4 again. I've played it a lot in the past, but not recently, until recently. But I'll give that an 8 out of 10. Relayer, a 10 out of 10. Going for the One, I could never get into. I almost don't like it. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Tornado, I love it. A 9 out of 10. And then I lost interest in them with Drama. I just never heard any other albums. I did listen to samples online of different albums, and it's like, yeah. So overall, Yes has higher ratings than the Genesis albums. So you'd think I would pick the Yes discography. But oh, you are wrong. I'm going with Genesis. Because seriously, I think overall, I like Genesis a tad more than Yes. So when I'm in jail, I'm going to be listening to the Genesis discography. So I would love your thoughts in the comment section below. Wasn't that fun? Just say yes. Have a great day. Bye. Yes.